So a little over 2 years ago, a local developer was dropping some huge oak trees in their yard. They called me up. I just got my Alaskan mill, so Sam and I booked it over there and milled up some slabs. So now that the wood is a lot closer to dry, it's time to put it to work. Since it's red oak, I probably wouldn't make any furniture out of it because nobody likes red oak in furniture. So instead, we're gonna make a massive bench, improve on mine a little bit with some awesome vices from Andy Klein. We're gonna make it a little bit taller since I'm a little bit taller, and I'm gonna make it a little bit longer than the one that I already have. First thing we need to do though is rough saw this tree into usable lumber. So the wood has been chilling for a minute after we rough sawed it. Now we're gonna skip plane it and get it in the shop and get ready for this project. Cart hand's struggling. So since we've been doing a ton of epoxy stuff, we haven't done much woodworking here lately, and I want to get back to some more traditional woodcraft in order to make my daddy Ron proud. So the first thing we're gonna need to do is glue up the top, and the legs are gonna be a little bit bigger than the stock I have, so we gotta glue those up too. Back to the wood stack. So basically, need to get my top overall width to 24 inches. These boards are like anywhere from 2 1/8 to 2 3/8. So as long as I can get the faces parallel, I can do 2 10-inch glue ups for the top, and then 2 2-inch skirts on the outside that I'll be able to put my caps on. And then therefore, I won't have to worry about making sure each piece that I use for the top is 2 inches wide. I would waste a ton of time planing everything to 2 inches. Instead, I'll just build it bigger and cut it down after. And if the interiors aren't perfect, it's just a workbench at the end of the day. All right, we're laying out the boards before glue up. We're gonna glue it up in 2 parts, that way I can plane it a little easier. The outside faces won't be glued up until I cut some fancy dovetail joinery for the caps. A little more involved than just a standard glue up, but still wanna take the time to lay everything out properly. Let there be glue. All right, so these dried. We gotta square up these legs. Today, we're going to get the top completely done first though. Fortunately, I have a 12-inch jointer, so I can joint the table top as separate parts, and then we'll biscuit it and put it together. That'll leave minimal work for cleanup when we get to that point. If you don't have a 12-inch jointer, which 95% of you won't watching this, you can do this by hand. You just got to get out a sweat rag and a bottle of water and maybe grow a mustache. Let's get these out of clamps. So for alignment's sake, we're going to throw a few biscuits in this thing. We're going old school. Build this bench, you need to be a grizzly bear or find a friend. Don't break your back moving big heavy stuff around. Perfect. Double perfect. All right, peoples, we've got everything cut down to final dimensions for the base. We're gonna be using timber frame joinery for this, which is pretty basic. Just mortise and tenon with drawbores, so we don't even need to potentially glue them up. The drawbores pull them nice and tight. To do so, we're gonna now lay out our legs. We're gonna have our two show faces that are gonna face out, so you people can see it all the time, are these guys. So I'm gonna make a little triangle here, like that, and then these will be our show faces facing in. Same thing, another triangle. We're gonna now lay out the joinery for the tenons that will hold our face stretcher. These stretchers will be flush to the front here. The whole workbench face will be flush, that way we can use it. And this is, like I said, the beginning, the top. Very basic bench build. So let's get to a little bit of layout. So to make this a little easier, we're gonna lay out these mortises all at the same time. And then we're just going to cut these out with this super basic drill mate with a spade bit from this week's sponsor, IRWIN, and their new Speedbor Bits, which literally friggin' rule. Oh. So let me get finished with this layout and then make some awesomeness. I'm gonna cut this first one with this drill mate from Milescraft, just to show that you don't need crazy fancy tools. This thing was like 30 bucks, Sam? 30 or 40 bucks. You don't need a drill press to do something like this, and you can see really solid results. We're also gonna be using these spade bits. Like I said, from IRWIN, these are their new Speedbor Bits. They are quite nice. And chuck this bastard up. I like that. For all the damn mortises I've drilled in my life, using Forstner bits and the drill press, this went way smoother, I've got to say. I'm quite surprised. All right, I'm on to the final mortise for the base. And in order to pick up some speed, what I decided to do was hog out the waist with the Speedbor Bits like you saw. And then instead of old-timey chopping these mortises by hand, we're busting out the router with an up spiral bit. And I'm just taking slow passes to pretty much take it all out. So it's going a lot better. If you're not comfortable freehand routing, I would not attempt this technique, but it does work. Check it. Do a little cleanup on the tenons. So now that all of the tenons are fit, we're gonna mock this base up to get a feel for its rugged sturdiness. You know what else is rugged and sturdy? Ford trucks from the 90s. So set it down, we'll put it on its side. Oh! Beef!
What is this, Arby's?
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
A little couple ratchet straps, which will pull right in. And the drawbores will pull it all together too. There we go. Getting the old girl mocked up here, just because, why not? So we're mocked up. As you can see, this thing is gonna be a bear, and we're pretty stoked about it. So next thing we need to do before I can cut the mortises for our legs is I need to make the cap on our end that's gonna have the vise. Our tail vise end. So to do so, I kind of want to do the dovetailed end cap thing. It's a little bit more involved. You don't need to do it this way. You can essentially just cap the end with something and then pin it. Sort of going to act like a breadboard, help keep it flat, as well as give you a single flat reference surface for the vise to reference again. I don't know the actual theory behind this part, so if you are a woodworker who happens to know bench building theory and why you cap one side or you cap the other side or whatever, let me know down in the description. I'm always here to learn. But I want to try these like big half-blind dovetail capped ends because I have a mustache and it would make Ron happy. First thing we need to do though is square up our end boards and then square up the end of the bench. I'm going to cut a shoulder in the bench in order to recess a tongue into our cap, and then we'll cut the joint. It is time to cut our dovetails. Just so you guys know, I do make mistakes. So, we had a little bit too much of a reveal on this side of my joint. So because I cut it off center, I was able to flip it. And now, it's perfect. Shouldn't have an effect on anything because, you know, it's what it is. Back to the important matters. Dovetails. This is going to be a half-line dovetail in this end. If you guys haven't seen this, there's tons of videos on how to do this. I'm going to show you how I think I want to do it and tackle it, which should work. By no means am I professional at cutting dovetails. There's actually people out there who are professional dovetailers. Let's lay this thing out. Now shit's about to get squirrely. Here's a little tip. If you are cutting something similar, you want to give yourself 2 lines of reference to keep the saw straight. So right now I'm looking down this, I can see my line over here and my line here. Not too shabby for a schmuck that doesn't know how to do woodworking. The only thing that truly really matters, well, not the only thing, but one of the most important part of this is to make sure that this is perfectly square here. As you guys can see, I left a little bit of meat on there, and that gives me an opportunity to take a nice sharp chisel. I've got my line that I can come down in and I can pair. So what I'll do is I'll pair behind the line like that, down to where I need it to be. What we're looking for is when you drop a combo square on it, you see how we've got that gap back there? Now, because I relieved all that kind of material in there, I can drop this in the line, and it makes it a lot easier to pare down too. Perfect. So now I'll just continue the whole way down. Gotta be careful. This is not supported underneath. It's float. All right, we are going to now mark our tails. I'm going to use the tape trick from Mike Pekovich because since I've started doing that, my dovetails have become a lot better. I definitely think the presence of our Lord and Savior Ron Swanson and the mustache helps. Mock-up! Someday everyone that watches my content will realize every project is better when you yell. I was reading a few comments today on my latest video. And one was from a gentleman from that place we defected from. And he's like, I like watching John's content, except I'm British, and he's too loud. I didn't respond to it. Instead, I got his phone number, and I called him. And I just screamed. May I ask who's calling? This is Freedom. It put on a couple pounds. She must have been eating the meat and cheese. Think about this, Ron. What do you think about this? All right, so after an hour, we got the top flat. This is the bottom. And another way to do this is to use a router sled. If you guys want to build one, I've got a video, 10 minutes, I think 5 minutes, something like that. Super easy to build. You've seen it in a ton of my stuff. Use it to flatten all the time. But we're super fortunate and cheaters, so we're gonna go use our neighbor's massive CNC, get this done lickety split so we can get back to building. So this table's getting quite high. In order to cut the mortises, I'm standing on a stool, and I'm 6'3", which means we're up here. But to hog out the waste, we're gonna use the Speedbor Bits again, because they did a phenomenal job on all of the mortises in our leg joints. And this should be pretty quick work. This gives me a little better leverage being above it. So you don't have to do the joint this way. You can make a template and use a bearing and all that stuff. I just like to do it freehand. For me, it's a little faster, and then I can clean all of these up by hand. But there's 1,000 ways to skin a deer. Cat, it's a cat, right? So for all of you that are gonna comment and say, why didn't you just make a template, or why didn't you do this or that? Teach their own. This is just my preference, how I wanna do it. With me, this is how we're gonna do this. All right, so we're gonna cut these ones by hand because I'm a glutton for punishment, and they're a little bit big for the table saw. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Let's try these on the band side. Almost. And if you didn't know, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. That's what my daddy always said. Pin time. Hey! There's some draw bore. So we're mocked up, looking good. We still gotta add like the cleats and stuff for the base, but I think I want some contrast. This is looking very woodish. So unfortunately, I don't have enough hindsight to have painted it beforehand, but I think I want to paint the base black. So grab some tape. Sam, grab it. Let us spray. So we're going to be putting 2 vices on this bench. Both of them are going to be the twin turbo vices from Andy Klein. If you haven't seen these, they're incredible. You can see all the gears and stuff inside of them. We've got this big acrylic plate. They look amazing. I am not going to show you how to do it, so we're just going to montage this because Andy's got some great resources on how to put it together on his site. Those are linked down below, and if you're interested and want to purchase one, I've also got a link down below for that as well. Comparably priced to, I would say, all of the high-end models of vices for benches that are out there on the market, and it's made by a fellow maker who supports the community. Awesome dude. He's an evil genius, and I'm super stoked to have these in there. So, cue the montage. And the final assembly, well, actually, I'm probably gonna have to take this apart to clean it, but this thing went together super simple. Took us a minute because we had to do 2 of them, but really cool to work with like well-machined parts when you're used to working with wood. Just something super satisfying. And like I said, if you're into this, I got a link down below. Go support Andy. He's a maker, awesome dude, mad scientist. He's got all kinds of crazy and awesome products and projects and his own YouTube channel. Ho, ho, ho. Boom. That thing's got so much throat. That is so fast. Those look cool as hell. Final stages of the bench. We're gonna get rabbit chip lap bead joints cut for the shelf on the bottom, and then we're gonna put that in. We're just using some rails that we're just gonna screw in. I kind of want that to be flexible. Don't really know what the long-term use of the bench is gonna be on the shelf on the bottom is. But yeah, for now we're gonna go with some slats that we need to cut some rabbited grooves into so that they kind of lay nice and look pretty, which we care about. It's so cute. So I think I want to go with the dog holes in the same locations that we had on my previous bench. Why? Because I don't really know why or where they're supposed to go, and I couldn't really find a good resource on it. So if you have one, leave it down in the comments. But ours are 3 3/8 off to center off of each side, and then the holes themselves are about, I think they were like 5 5/8 inches apart on center. Now Andy Klein, the same guy who did the, what are these called, vices, has these really cool dog pop-ups that he invented that he sells on his website that use magnets and permanent rods. So in the vices themselves, we're gonna do these pop-up dogs on rods, and then I'll have 3/4 inch holes on the main tabletop that I can use your standard dog and hold down clamps. That way I can use these finally because I have the space underneath. So a lot of holes to drill, a lot of layout to do. If you want to do the same layout, it'll be in the plan, but you don't have to. You could pretty much lay it out as custom as you want, or figure out someone else who's better at building benches and use their layout. So Andy's little pop-up stops have this magic, basically, but essentially I got to recess this in there. If you're looking for more information, I got Andy's page linked down below. Check that out. The way these work is these posts are threaded into these little buttons that go on top. And then we inset a magnet into this recess here. So that magnet holds this up and doesn't let it just drop. And then these recess down in, and I'll trim these all, make them all nice and flush and put cork on them and stuff. But as you can see, gives you a pretty cool dog that's gonna live there that you can pop up from the bottom pretty easily. Pretty cool, pretty smart. Now we gotta fix the ones that we did wrong. Boom shaka. Hold down. Wonder if it's gonna actually work. Oh, it works! I've got classic hold downs and I'm freaking stoked. Thank you guys for checking out this build. This one was a blast. Huge shout out to IRWIN for sponsoring it. Don't forget to snag yourself up some of our new merchandise and get one of the bundles I have for the plans for this and my other workbench together. Now, I will see you on my next video.